What is the best gift you received? As my parents got new stuff for their Christmas tree, they let the kids take the old if they wanted. I had a baby reindeer tree topper I kept. My parents used that thing every Christmas growing up until my mama switched to an angel. I had a lot of my stuff stored at my sister's, including all Christmas decorations. She had a fire and lost their entire workshop. I looked for years to replace it but couldn't find anything even close. About 2 or 3 years ago, my ex-husband found one on eBay and bought it for me. I have it displayed at all times now if only I could find those lamp ornaments. I'm very lucky and have had 3 that spring to mind. As a kid, a motocross bike. Still have it 20 years later. Thing is fantastic. As an adult, I would say a leather bag from my wife is probably the most sentimental. It was her granddad's, who helped raise her until he passed far too early. Made by a company with the same name as my wife. Located in Florence, where we happened to go on our first holiday together, means a lot to me. The coolest is a very fancy watch my wife bought me for my 30th. It was made the year I was born. Point 3 fantastic gifts. When I graduated high school, I asked my dad if I could have a watch since he's always had nice watches. He gifted me an incredibly nice Victorinox, which at the time was too heavy and had a hard time getting used to it. But now every time I look at it, I know my dad wanted to give me something really nice. From time to time he'll ask me to borrow it, and it gets compliments at his work, lol. At the time my mum was very sick and we didn't have that much money. But he found the perfect watch for me. Wasn't cheap but is below $1,000. My most precious item. To specific things, background. I'm the only male from grandfather's line in my generation to have our last name. My initials are his initials. I ended up with a lot of his stuff when he passed. Initials engraved on it still in the original packaging because he never used it. And I do not smoke, and a 1921 Morgan silver dollar he had buried in his sock drawer that I had repurposed into a ring. So that way I would always have something to remind me of him at all times. When I was little, I got the Millennium Falcon. It was a big tour and it is before the internet and all that, so I didn't even know such a thing was made. I was probably 3, maybe 4. Anyway, it blew my mind. It was already assembled and I unwrapped it and was shocked. Me and my Han and Chewbacca action figures had many adventure for years. Literally years. What a gift. I still remember that Christmas moment to this day. Christmas peaked at 4. P.S. Chewbacca was cool as hell back then. Chewbacca is still cool as hell now. It's so silly, but we keep pretend stab each other like if you squeeze behind each other. Why not sneak in a lil shanking in the ribs? Going in for a hug? Nope. Get stabbed. For my birthday he bought me 3 fake knives so I can keep pretend stab him but better. He gave me other gifts like a plant I've been wanting, but the thought behind the fake knives was so funny and unexpected. We also keep each other at finger gunpoint to at least 15 times a day, so it just suits our lifestyle to have fake knives around as well, lol. My son. He's 9. But when he was 6 they made these Mother's Day cards at school. It was a picture of them holding flowers, and then on the other side of the card it says something they love about their mom. My son wrote "I love your talk." He meant talk. He didn't know how to spell it. When I asked what he meant he said, "I love how you tell me you love me, it's the sweetest thing." The flawed spelling makes it so special and cute to me. Basically anything he writes or makes me is my favorite gift. The best gifts, in my experience, are usually those that the recipient uses frequently, but may not necessarily want to spend the money on. I always ask for my $35 shampoo, boutique fitness class passes, Lululemon socks or leggings, and razor refills. I detest paying $25 for a bundle of those things. My acquaintance was ecstatic when I gave her a large pack of her preferred cold brew as a birthday present. Though it's not particularly inventive, you can be sure it will be put to use. One of the most thoughtful gifts I've ever received was when my son was in the hospital after being hit by a car out of the parking garage, so I didn't have to deal with the anxiety of getting tokens at the machine or inserting a credit card each time I had a few minutes to run home and shower or see my other kids. Truly made a huge impact. I now do this for new parents or friends with loved ones in the hospital. My mum does art. She scavenges whatever and turns it into 3D collage sculptures. One of these framed collages in a set of 9 contained a dead bat she found somewhere. I love bats. I repeatedly asked her for a quote to buy it over several years, but she wouldn't sell it to me. When I finally, after a lot of struggle, got my master's degree, she gifted it to me. I cried. I care more about this piece of art than about the fucking degree, lol. The best gift I ever received was a cookbook from my grandma, filled with family recipes and stories. This cookbook from my grandma wasn't just a collection of recipes, but also a treasure trove of family traditions. Every page was saturated with stories, anecdotes, and memories associated with specific dishes. It wasn't just about cooking, it was about connecting with my roots, discovering my family's history through tastes and aromas. A corset out of my old childhood curtains. They've been my curtains since I was 6 till 22. It broke my heart having to give them away. BC life, you know. I gave it to an independent designer who makes corsets out of curtains. My friends chipped in to get me the corset with my curtains. Cried so much when I opened the bag. Just full on sobbing to them, needing a minute. I'm the dramatic friend. Honestly, never felt so known and loved. My current computer got cancer at 15, currently 7 months in remission, BTW. And my parents got me the computer I was saving up for. It was $700. Now, I've actually upgraded almost all the parts now too. And I plan on keeping that thing until it ends up dying, lol. And also to date I've spent somewhere in the realm of $500 upgrading the PC itself, on top of another $700,900 upgrading my setup itself over time. My grandma found a dead monarch butterfly floating in her bird bath in the garden. She retrieved it and put it in a clear case. She gave it to me when I was a teen. I'm in my late 20s now, and it has somehow stayed the same without decaying all these years. My grandma has since passed on, and it always reminds me of her and what a beautiful soul she was, and how she found such beauty in the little things. Orta, who has since acquiring speech been harassing me to stop smoking, bought me for my birthday around 15 years ago a vintage cigarette case with the Scotland map on it, which I now use for my cards. Mixed messaging, but I think of her every time I go to the bank, pay contactless, or have another reason to dig out a card. It's lovely, and I'd be crushed if I ever lost it. I had a paper route 7 days a week, and even on Christmas Day. For some reason I overslept on Christmas morning, and when I woke up my little brother was just coming in the door after doing my route for me. Ordinarily he wasn't all that helpful, so I appreciated it even more. I never forgot it, not that he would have let me even though 60 odd years have passed. I had a paper route 7 days a week, and even on Christmas Day. For some reason I overslept on Christmas morning, and when I woke up my little brother was just coming in the door after doing my route for me. Ordinarily he wasn't all that helpful, so I appreciated it even more. I never forgot it, not that he would have let me even though 60 odd years have passed. A coffee mug from the stage manager that had a line from a play that I wrote. It said, "Quack says the duck, the loathsome duck," which was the opening line of a monologue that a lot of people really liked. It also had a picture of a duck on it. I accidentally broke it 3 weeks after I received it, and I still get upset at myself when I think about that. Literally, my driver's license TS costs around 2, or that I made sure to make it as cheap as possible, and this is a gift for life, something that sets you up for your future life. I'm never gonna forget this, and I'm gonna give something 1000x better back. Certainly one of the best. I had a student, one of the best I ever had, super smart and a sweetheart, who one day randomly gave me a sticker. It's Kevin from The Office, and at the bottom it says, "I have very little patience for stupidity." She gave it to me and said, "This made me think of you." It was awesome, and I have it on my Yeti. I was right out of college living in the Southwest with just enough money to survive, and I drove a crappy car. My sister got a big bonus at work and gave me $5,000. She got my parents to each kick in $1,000, so she gave me a check for $7K to buy a new car. Back then that was enough to buy a decent used car, so I bought a Honda Civic. Pokemon Red. He came home from work one day and was like, pick a hand. And I was confused, both were behind his back. And so I chose. And he handed over Pokemon Red and said, you owe me for hours in the shop. Guys, the fun I had on my GBC. Time. It took me to get to an older age when I realized that time was the biggest gift you could ever receive or give. I still on occasion sit by a grave of a loved one and talk. I feel like she is listening. No phone. No music. The person feasts in front of you face to face is the most important person that moment. Provisional driving license and a couple driving lessons. Driving is something I thought I would or never do. It was something other people did, but for my 35th birthday, my wife and mom pooled money to get driving lessons and provisional. 35 hours lessons later I passed my test first time, and have drive since. For my 30th birthday, my wife got me 30 presents. I really can't remember the other 29 presents, but one tiny gift was a bag of beef jerky. My wife hates beef jerky, and I love it, so her buying it for me was shocking and special. It may be lame, but it was a present to remember for some reason.